If you're holding your opponent down with your left hand, lifting your right knee will provide a better angle for striking with your right hand. It allows you to drop all of your weight down with the punch. Now I spar with my brother using the ground and pound techniques I just demonstrated. Now I'll demonstrate how to stand up and open your opponent's closed guard. You do not want to keep your arms extended as you stand up because it gives your opponent an opportunity to attack. Instead, you want to control his arms while you stand up. As you come up, you want to put your knees under his legs and then punch him. Notice how when I hit my opponent, he automatically opens his guard for defense. When this happens, I will drive one of my knees between my opponent's legs. He will want to sit up here. To prevent him from making anything happen, I pummel my right arm underneath his left arm. At the same time, I use my opposite hand to push his right leg to the mat. Next, I drop my right knee on top of his right leg to keep it pinned to the mat. This allows me to pass over his leg and into side control. One more time. If it is difficult to open my opponent's guard, then I will begin to hit him. I stand up now. He opens his guard, and I sit with my knee between his legs. Now I begin to pass into side control. I have passed into side control. One more time from another angle. I have various ways to set up this technique. I can control my opponent's arms, or I can begin punching him. Either way, I stand up and continue to hit my opponent. He opens his guard, and I push my knee up the middle. The instant he sits up into me, I pummel my arm underneath his arm and use my opposite hand to force his right leg to the mat. Next, I place my right leg over his leg to keep it pinned. Once accomplished, I can pass my left leg over his right leg and move into side control. One more time from another angle. I have various ways to set up this technique. I can control my opponent's arms, or I can begin punching him. I am always using my arms to keep my opponent's back pinned to the mat. I begin to hit him. I stand up. I hit him. He opens his guard, and I drive my knee up the middle. He sits up to pummel, and I beat him to the punch by pummeling my right arm underneath his left arm. With my opposite hand, I push his leg to the mat, place my knee over his leg, and then pass into side control. Here's another way to pass your opponent's guard. To begin, I overwhelm my opponent with punches and elbow strikes to get him to open his guard. The instant he unhooks his legs, he places his knees in front of his body to maintain distance and hinder my strikes. When this occurs, I pummel both my arms underneath his legs and put my head down. If you leave your head up, you will get punched, so keep your head down. Additionally, if I leave space between my head and my shoulders, he will have the opportunity to counter my pass with a submission of his own. From here, I drive forward, force his legs to the side, and pass. One more time, he opens his guard to defend. I pummel my arms underneath his legs, and then I drive his legs forward and to the side, allowing me to pass into side control. Now from another angle. I overwhelm my opponent with strikes. He opens his guard and brings his knees to my chest to defend. I pummel my arms underneath his legs and lower my head. Notice how I reach my right hand to the right side of his neck, then turn and force my opponent's legs to the side. By forcing your opponent's legs toward his head, it eliminates his control and makes passing much easier. Hitting, enter here and pass. I am hitting him, and he opens his guard. I enter with both of my hands. Now I show ground and pound techniques that you can use when in your opponent's half guard. Just as the name implies, half guard is half of your opponent's defense, making it easier to hit him than when you're in his full guard. It's an even easier position to strike from than north-south. For example, if my opponent secures my hand, I can attack with my opposite hand. I can also secure his hand and attack with my opposite hand. There are a lot of options from half guard. When possible, you can also attack with both hands. Another scenario is when you have one of your opponent's arms secured to keep him on his back, and he uses his free arm to secure your free arm. Even in such a situation, you can attack with an elbow strike. So, elbow from top to bottom. Just as when in the guard, you can target your opponent's thigh with elbow strikes. Again, by striking your opponent's leg, you pull his focus low, creating an opening to go high with the punch. Once you go high, to switch things up, you strike with your opposite hand. You can even use faking techniques. For example, you place one hand on your opponent's mouth and then strike his thigh with your opposite elbow. If you've already gone low and then high several times, your opponent will expect you to strike him with the same arm you elbowed him with. As he goes to defend, you drop an elbow strike to his face using your lead arm instead. It is important to keep your opponent's back pinned to the mat. Sometimes this can be difficult because he wants to get to his side. If he gets to his side, he will have a lot of options. So to prevent this, place your hand on his chest and hold him down. Here's another way to keep your opponent pinned. I drop my body low, slide my left arm across his neck, and apply downward pressure. Once I have him pinned in this position, I can hit him. You always need to be alert, looking for opportunities to strike. I can throw a punch, I can elbow. If I give him too much space, he can slide his knee underneath me and reestablish the full guard. Sometimes it requires some space to ground and pound, but if you feel your opponent move to his side, pin his back to the mat again and then continue to hit him. Again, a lot of striking opportunities. For example, strike his thigh and then come over the top. Elbow strikes work great from the half guard. First control your opponent and then hit him. Throw repeated strikes over and over. Control his arm, elbow over the top, elbow to the thigh, throw to the top, elbow top to bottom, always changing your angle. Throw to the bottom and then to the top. Notice how my hips are nearly perpendicular to Shinzo's hips. This kills his bottom leg, reducing its effectiveness. The further I let him circle to my right, the more effective his legs will be in half guard. So make sure to control his upper body with your free arm while striking from half guard. Now I spar with my brother Shinzo using the half guard ground and pound techniques I just demonstrated.